Words at War presents a colossal mystery story which sprang from a graveyard and staggered the world.
Hoodoo, voodoo, mumbo, jumbo, who are we and where have we come to? Stir the cauldron and keep it hot. The elders of Zion have come to plot. To plot. At midnight dark in a graveyard spot. Forgive our mirth. You see, we plan to dominate the earth. 13 all told, and the devil at night, sitting on the tombstones white, forged out of fantasy, born of limbo, hoodoo, voodoo, mumbo, jumbo.
The words you have just heard are, of course, sheer nonsense. You who are listening will laugh at them, naturally, and with good reason. But for many years, there were many idiots who actually believed them, and because they did...
Poland became a charnel house, reeking with the smell of death. Blood ran in the gutters of Lidice, Rotterdam, Belgrade, Smolensk.
16 million human beings were slaughtered in Russia. By rope, by fire, by gun and sword.
Untold millions of Jews and Christians perished against bullet-pocked walls, in gas chambers, by starvation and pestilence.
And one man, an Austrian house painter, almost conquered the world.
Words at War. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council on Books in Wartime, brings you an adaptation of a portion of Conrad Hayden's Book of the Month choice, Der Fuehrer. And now a word of caution. Tonight's script, written by Max Ehrlich, does not concern itself with the life of Hitler. That has been done before. Instead...
This is the expose of a great lie, the men who conceived it and used it to serve their own ends. This is the expose of a colossal forgery written in the blood of the butchered. This is the incredible but true story of the false protocols of the wise men of Zion. France, 1864. Napoleon III, tyrant and autocrat, rules his groaning masses with an iron hand. The story begins with a little man, an obscure man, a lawyer by profession, one Maurice Joly. Maurice Joly, who at the moment has just entered the shop of the printer, Bouchier.
Well, Monsieur Bouchier, have you decided to publish my little manuscript?
I would not print it for £1,000,000, Monsieur Joly. You will oblige me by getting out of my shop and taking it with you.
But, my dear Bouchier, there's nothing in it that may be construed.
Mon Dieu! Do you take me for a fool? I have eyes and I can read. Dialogue in hell between Machiavelli and Montesquieu. A ponderous title, my friend, but transparent. Your manuscript is treason. A seditious attack against the Emperor.
I do not mention the Emperor.
No, but you do not have to. This demon from hell you scribble off, this Machiavelli, is the Emperor.
Very well, then. He is the Emperor. But, Monsieur Bouchier, it is time that France knew how Napoleon tyrannizes and crushes his people. You will be performing a public service.
I am interested only in keeping my head on my shoulders. This manuscript of yours, mon ami, is an invitation to guillotine. Now take it and get out.
No French printer would touch Joly's manuscript. Finally, in desperation, he took it to Belgium, where it was published as an illegal propaganda pamphlet. Very few read it, and for 30 years it languished in oblivion. For the record, Napoleon III shuffled off this mortal coil a victim of gallstones, and Maurice Joly died a suicide. But mark you well Joly's pamphlet, Dialogue in Hell. Put it aside, digress for a moment, but do not forget it, for it was the beginning, the first step of the great lie. The second step, 1868, Germany. A certain Hermann Gotche, a minor official in the Prussian Postal Service, fancied himself as a writer of fiction. Under the English name of Sir John Redcliffe, he wrote a novel called Biarritz. And in this novel, there was a chapter entitled In the Jewish Cemetery in Prague. And a remarkable piece of fiction it was. Let's see if we can reenact it for you, as radio will permit. It was the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles, and the clock was approaching midnight. The sinister graveyard in Prague, serried with row upon row of white tombstones, stood bathed in the eerie moonlight, waiting. Then, one by one, pale figures crept into the graveyard, 13 in all. Among them, the representatives of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Silently, they gathered in a ghostly group around one of the graves. And then spoke the Prince of Manasseh, for it was indeed he.
Brethren of Zion, ye have gathered here at the tomb of Simeon ben Yehuda. Blessed be he. Ye have come from the 4 corners of the earth, armed with the dreadful secrets of the Kabbalah.
Shall we now proceed, O Prince of Manasseh?
No, wait. There is yet another of us who must appear.
Which one is that, Prince?
He shall be nameless, but he will come from the tomb.
Ghostly figures swayed silently, fearfully. And then, from the tomb of Simeon ben Yehuda,
it is he, a nameless one. Come, let us kneel.
I am here, brethren.
We greet you, O son of the accursed.
Proceed with the business at hand, for the clock strikes 12. Speak, O Prince of Manasseh.
Brethren, for 1,800 years we have fought our war. Everywhere we have been downtrodden, persecuted, oppressed, but we are not conquered. Once every 100 years, as it is ordained, we meet to discuss our plans for conquest. What secrets have ye now, my brethren?
one by one, the kneeling figures answered.
There is no greater power than gold, hard yellow gold, to bribe princes and kings. The literature of the world, the press, these are the keys to kingdoms. What people read, people believe.
The courts and parliaments, political bodies, these must be influenced.
The youth. Let us whisper in the ears of the young.
And so it went down the line until the very end. And finally, when the last elder had spoken, the Prince of Manasseh rose.
Brethren, go now and execute these plans. We shall meet again in 100 years, in solemn conclave then as now. Go and work thy will. Adieu, O accursed one.
Farewell. Farewell, brethren.
The nameless one disappeared in the tomb, a flash of blue light, and one by one the 13 ghostly figures crept away, and there was naught left but darkness and silence. This was the mumbo-jumbo that Herman Goethe, alias Sir John Redcliffe the Younger, cooked up in his spare time. Pretty childish nonsense, you'll admit. Not very well done and meant for primitive minds. Among other things, for instance, Herman never explained where he found the 10 lost tribes of Israel, which had been lost for 2,000 years. He never explained either why the elders met in a cold and uncomfortable graveyard instead of a nice, warm back room with refreshments all around. Anyway, let's get back on the trail of the great lie. Herman Goethe's gorgeous ghost story was published in pamphlet form, and lo and behold was marked authentic. A few professional anti-Semites tried to peddle it, but without much success. As Goethe wrote it, it was too much even for congenital idiots to swallow. And then it came into the hands of the Okhrana, secret police of the Tsar of all the Russias.
An interesting pamphlet this, Sergei.
Yes, General Oryevsky.
Written by an Englishman, eh? Sir John Redcliffe the Younger.
No, Excellency. The name Redcliffe is a blind. The real author is an obscure German novelist, one Hermann Goethe.
Interesting, very. I didn't think a German could have that much imagination. Of course, Sergei, this graveyard story is sheer rubbish.
Of course.
Still, I think we can use it.
Use it? But how, Excellency?
Sergei, the people are showing revolutionary tendencies. They're beginning to murmur against the Tsar. We must use harsh measures. Suppress them.
Yes, but this pamphlet I don't see how...
The usual technique, Sergei. Give the peasants something to hate, while we make them serve us. They'll be so busy hating that they won't notice what we're doing until it is too late.
Ah.
Now, a small minority would be very convenient for the people to attack. A certain small minority.
The Jews, Excellency?
Exactly, the Jews. Have this pamphlet printed in Russian, Sergei. See that it is distributed among the people. It ought to do wonders.
Excellency, with your permission, this graveyard story may be a little far-fetched, even for our ignorant peasants.
Quite so, Sergei, quite so. Perhaps we should rewrite it. Perhaps in the form of protocols? Yes, protocols. That would give this fable the appearance of truth.
The Protocols of Zion. Not bad, Excellency, not bad.
Thank you, Sergei.
General Oryevsky, may I suggest the man to convert the pamphlet?
By all means, do.
General Rachkovsky.
Rachkovsky? Yes, of course. The fellow has a genius for this sort of thing. Get in touch with him at once, Sergei.
This was the third step in the series of fateful events. Now, remember the pamphlet of Maurice Joly, the French lawyer that we put aside for a while? Well, General Rachkovsky of the Tsar's secret police found it at this time and read it, and was struck with an inspiration.
General Oryevsky, we have only to put Machiavelli's words into the mouths of the mythical Jewish elders in the Prague graveyard.
You mean combine the Joly pamphlet with the graveyard story?
Yes. Then we shall have something that will frighten the wits out of not only the people, but the Tsar himself.
Excellent, Rachkovsky. Excellent. I trust this French lawyer. What's the fellow's name? Maurice Joly? Was a Jew.
No, Excellency. He was not a Jew.
Oh, dear. Are you sure?
Unfortunately, yes, Excellency. His baptismal papers are a matter of public record at the Church of Saint-Désiré.
Well, it does not matter. We are not dealing with the truth here. Proceed with your task. Prepare the Protocols of Zion. It will be interesting to see what effect they have on our dear people.
And what effect did they have? Here is the answer taken straight from history. It is the town of Orsha, population 14,000. It is a day of national festivity, a day when the peasants have swept the bitter thoughts of poverty and oppression from their minds, a day when Jews and Christians alike dance in the streets. But suddenly and mysteriously, the music trails away. The dancing is ended. Into the square come the agents of the Russian secret police. They're distributing pamphlets to the people, shoving them at one and all. Then an agent climbs on a cart.
Pass them around, neighbors. Listen to me, peasants. Listen to me, please. Please listen. Today you dance, you sing, you laugh. You've forgotten your misery for the moment. Well, now is the time to remember these pamphlets. Read these pamphlets. If you cannot read, let others read them to you. You will see who is responsible for your hunger and poverty. The pamphlets tell all. They are printed. See? They are the truth.
About the plot. A Jewish plot. Come here.
It is true. In the graveyard at Roxamet.
This is true. See, it is printed. Here in this book, it is printed.
They are our enemies. They are
It is they who are responsible for our misfortune.
Then it began. A 3-day orgy of mayhem, looting, murder. Thousands of peasants, hitherto good-natured human beings, came in from the countryside, armed with axes and knives and clubs and guns. Passion and hatred were whipped to white heat by the secret police, and the first murders followed. Finally, on the 23rd of October, the vice-governor of the province spoke to the mob.
Yes, and people of Orsha, listen to me. Now, children, it is enough. You have had 3 days of fun. Now go home and sing God Save the Tsar.
pogrom, by definition, is simply a massacre. You don't hear the word much lately. Nowadays, it's called purge or liquidation. But to get on, in the 1 month of October 1905, there were no fewer than 690 pogroms staged in all of Russia. 690 times the cobbled streets were drenched with the blood of an innocent minority, due to the perpetration of the greatest fraud in history. But please don't fret about it. The pogroms merely always ended on a nice note.
Come, children. It is enough. You have had your fun. Now go home and sing God Save the Tsar.
If this were fiction instead of truthful history, right there is where the story would end. But history is a perverse thing. Our story continues. A summer day in 1917. On this day, a student was reading in his room in Moscow when someone knocked at his door.
Come in.
Alfred Rosenberg?
Yes.
I'd like to leave this book with you.
Just a minute. Who are you?
It doesn't matter. Just read the book.
I don't understand. What?
You will when you read the book. Goodbye, Herr Rosenberg.
The protocols of the wise men of Zion?
A mysterious occurrence which doesn't make sense. But Alfred Rosenberg, who later became the official philosopher of the Nazi Party, swears that it happened. However, Alfred Rosenberg read the protocols from cover to cover and was deeply impressed.
I believe it. I believe every word of it. Judah, this book has brought forth your innermost thoughts. Something will come of this.
Thus spoke the student Alfred Rosenberg, son of a German shoemaker born in Estonia. Thus spoke this young mystic, this seer, this soothsayer and prophet in the year 1917. As to the identity of the stranger who brought him the protocols, no one knows. It could have been the devil, if you believe in devils. The thing to remember is that the great lie had found its way into the right hands at last. To review, there had been...
Maurice Jolie, Frenchman. Hermann Gotcha, alias Sir John Redcliffe the Younger, German. Oryevsky, Rashkovsky, Russians.
And now, Alfred Rosenberg, Estonian Aryan.
Mark this man Rosenberg, and mark him well. As the onrushing Bolshevist armies rolled westward, Alfred Rosenberg flees before them, first to the Baltic, then Berlin, finally to Munich. While Lenin calls the world to revolution, holding aloft the Communist Manifesto, the refugee Alfred Rosenberg carries the textbook of world dominion in his battered suitcase to Germany. But this Germany is a new Germany, an ugly breeding place of conspirators plotting for power. And in Munich, Rosenberg, with his printed dream, found certain kindred spirits. Among them a young officer named Rudolf Hess, another called Ernst Röhm.
We need a leader, a strong man and a ruthless man.
A leader is not enough, Hess. This damned Russian revolution sweeping toward us is the support of the masses. We, too, must have the support of ours to counter it.
Aaron, you're both right. But above all, you need a plan.
Well, come on, Rosenberg, speak up. What have you in mind?
First, the masses must be softened, split among themselves from within. We must create chaos in society. Keep the people so busy hating something or someone that they'll be disorganized and easy prey for us.
You talk like a university professor. I'm a simple man. If you have a plan, Rosenberg, produce it.
Easy, Rhyme, easy. What we need is a scapegoat to divert the attention of the masses.
A scapegoat, huh? What kind of scapegoat?
Well, my dear Hess, how about the Jews?
Oh, the Jews. Of course. The Jews.
But how can we inflame the people against the Jews?
This little book, Rhyme. Everything we need is in this little book.
Book? You cannot win power in Germany with a book, Rosenberg.
My dear Rhyme, that is where you're wrong. In this little book is the secret of the domination of Germany. Yeah, and even more than that, the world.
Let me see it, Rosenberg. The Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion.
Three men and a little book, and a disgruntled nation bowed low under the Treaty of Versailles. 3 men and a little book, and a nation smarting under the Treaty of Versailles. And when the sweet voice of reason tried to prevail, and there were reasonable men in Germany...
But people, why? Why? What have the Jews done?
The answer was the same as in days of old.
What have they done? You hear that, Germans? He asked what the Jews have done. Here's what they've done. Read for yourself. The Protocols of Zion, drawn up in a Prague graveyard. It's written right here. It's printed. It's the truth. Well, Graham, was I right about the little book?
Yeah, Rosenberg. Himmel, it's almost incredible. My stormtroopers, the people have all gone mad with hate. The blood of Jews flows in the streets.
An amazing people are Germans. To think that they could be taken in by this ridiculous graveyard tale.
It is not ridiculous, Hess. It is the truth.
Oh, very well, my dear Rosenberg. It is the truth.
The people are blinded. They cannot see. We can do anything we like. Now is the time to strike.
Yes, but first we need a leader.
That's right, Hess. We need a leader. A strong man, a man without pity. A man who can sway the masses. A man facile enough to suit any occasion.
You talk in riddles, Rosenberg.
Do I? Why, it's very simple, my dear Rheim. You have only to read the Protocols. We can use it not only as a weapon to divide peoples and therefore control them, but a textbook for ourselves. It tells us, for instance, that the leader must be nationalist or socialist, pacifist or warmonger, Democrat or tyrant, whatever is politically convenient at the time.
Continue, Rosenberg. Continue.
He must be Fuehrer by virtue of bayonets and the power of propaganda. And finally, the stupid masses whom he has politically raped will even applaud him.
Again, Rosenberg, you speak like a Herr Professor.
You don't understand, Rheim. Everything we need is so simple. Everything is in the little book.
Yeah, perhaps. But this leader, where are we going to find such a man?
I think I've already found him, Rheim.
Yeah? Who? Who is this genius, Hess?
He was recently a corporal in the army. Now he's an informer here in Munich.
His name is the name of the Fuhrer.
Adolf Hitler.
Yes, that just about brings us to the part of the Nazi legend most people are familiar with. But our story would be incomplete if we did not cover one more angle. Der Fuhrer once wrote a book. It was called Mein Kampf, and it made him a fortune. With it, he proved that if a lie is big enough and bold enough and repeated often enough, some people will finally believe it. Yes, he's proud of that book, for in it, he says, he reveals clever and original ideas on how to conquer the world. But the Fuhrer flatters himself. He cribbed, lifted, stole from the heinous literary fraud known as the Protocols of Zion. Yes, to the Fuhrer's many crimes can now be added plagiarism. Listen.
We Germans shall create unrest, hatred, and struggle in Europe, and afterwards in other countries.
You will find this in Mein Kampf, also in the Protocols. The words are a little different, that is all.
We shall divide the people in every state by envy and hatred, by struggle and warfare. Even by spreading hunger and pestilence, we shall force all people to bow to our will.
You will find this in Mein Kampf, also in the Protocols. The words are a little different, that is all.
We shall paralyze and seduce the youth. We shall use bribery, treason, hypocrisy, treachery. The ends justify the means. Anything for Germany to rule the world.
You'll find this in Mein Kampf, also in the protocols. The words are a little different, that is all.
We Germans are the chosen. We are the supermen. If any state dares resist us...
Let's turn it off. Proof is proof. Quaderat demonstrandum. Well, there it is. These are the true facts about the garbled graveyard story, the fantastic forgery whose propagation has caused untold misery to millions. This is the true story of the Great Lie, and its final use as Der Fuhrer's personal Bible and guide, his weapon with which to attack one minority and eventually every minority. This is the macabre comedy of fantasy, forgery, and tragedy that we allow to be played upon the stage of the world. May heaven and our children forgive us.
And keep it hot. The elders of Zion have come to plot. To plot. At midnight dark in a graveyard spot. Forgive us our mirth. You see, we plan to dominate the earth. 13 are told, and the devil at night, sitting on the tombstones white, forged out of fantasy, born of limbo, voodoo, mumbo jumbo.
You have been listening to the 41st offering of Words at War, a radio play based on a portion of the new Book of the Month choice, Der Fuehrer, by Conrad Haydn. Tonight's adaptation was written by Max Ehrlich, and the players included Gregory Morton, Junius Matthews, Martin Wolfson, Norman Lloyd, Daniel Ocko, Barry Kroger, Sid Cassell, Boris Marshalloff, Ed Jerome, Kermit Murdoch, and Liesel Falke. The music was selected and played by William Meader, and the entire production was under the direction of Anton M. Leader. Next week, Words at War will present John Hersey's A Bell for Adano. Words at War is brought to you in cooperation with the Council on Books in Wartime by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This is the National Broadcasting Company. Words at War.
This is Mercurio Salvatore, town cry of the town of Adano, Provincia di Vincina, Mare, Italy. Listen, people of Adano, the Americani have come.
So they bring with them the for freedom and the national bundle? Do you think we will ever forget the car on the road and the voice of the general?
But my friends, the general, he doesn't realize how important the carts are to Adano.
He doesn't want
No. But this Maggiore is a friend. Wait. You will see.
The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council on Books in Wartime, presents Words at War, Tonight we bring you a novel by John Hersey, A Bell for Adano. It is about Americans in Italy, thoughtful Americans and Americans not so thoughtful. In particular, it is about one man, an Italian-American named Major Victor Giappolo.
This is Mercurio Salvatore Tancred of the town of Adano, provincia di Vicina Mare, Italy. I want you to know and understand the man, Mr. Maggiore Vittorio Giappolo of the Allied military government occupied the territory. I want you to know that the Americans who have come to the town of Adano are friends of Mercurio Salvatore. The Americans wish you to be your friends. They will change things and help you. If you have complaints, if you got problems, you do not have to be afraid to speak. You can go to the city hall and speak with the Maggiore Giappolo and his assistant, the sergeant of bird. That's all. I have cried.
Take it easy now. One at a time. Quiet.
Just a minute. You'll all get a chance. Now you.
Si, signor.
Who are you?
Zitto Giuseppe. I've been well-known as antifascist.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm auction, the Palazzo di Città.
An usher?
I'm a hated the fascist. I'm a hated the fascist for many years. Everybody knows I'm antifascist.
You hated them so much, why'd you work for them?
One that must eat. One that must make a living. I have 6 bambini.
All right, so you were a fascist. Now you'll have to learn to live in a democracy. You'll be my usher.
Grazie, signora Maggio. Grazie tanta. Yes, signora Maggio. Tanta grazie.
Has it been bad here?
Such a bombardment. Such a raid. Yes, very bad. And we are hungry. For 3 days we have no bread. All the important ones ran away and left me here to guard the palazzo. Some people are sick because the drivers of the water carts have not had the courage to get water for several days. Because of the airplanes along the road.
I see. And you? What's your name?
Ribardo Giuseppe. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been here 3 years.
Cleveland, huh? Okay. I'll hire you. You'll be my interpreter.
You don't speak Italian?
Well, yes, I do, but there'll be other Americans who don't, and I may need you for other things, too.
That's sure anything. I fix it.
Now, tell me, what does this town need most?
Food, boss. Food is bad now in Adano.
Why's that? Shortage of flour?
And no, everyone's been scared. Bakers don't work, and nobody sell pasta. Water don't come in the carts. That's all, boss.
Please, I tell you what Adano needs.
I tell him already what she needs. Food.
All you think of is the stomach.
And what's the matter with the stomach?
He always thinks of the stomach.
But who are you?
My name is Cacopardo, at your service, Maggiore. Antifascisti. I am 82. I own most of the sulfurs in this place. Here, Cacopardo is sulfur, and the sulfur is Cacopardo. I wish to give you advice whenever you need it.
Well, then tell me, what do you think this town needs the most right now?
It needs a bell more than anything.
A bell?
Si, senor. A bell. A fascista took her a bell.
The guy's balmy, Giappolo.
Quiet, boy. What's this about a bell?
In Adano, senor, we had a bell. A beautiful bell. It was 700 years old. And this Villayago that's Mussolini took it to make a cannon or something. I tell you, the town was very angry about it.
Yes, very angry. But even so, what we need the most is a food. To eat is more necessary than a bell.
The town needs the bell.
People who are hungry, they have a ringing in the ears. They don't need the bells.
Zito, what do you say? You consider the food or the bell more important?
I think the bell.
You do? Why, Zito?
Because the tone of the bell was so satisfactory.
Please, Maggiore, this bell was the center of the town. All life revolved around it. The farmers in the country were awakened by it in the morning. The drivers of the carts knew when to start by it. The bakers baked by it. Our bell was Adano.
I see. Looks like we'll have to do something about getting another bell, Sergeant Boy.
Are you kidding?
Well, the bell's important to them.
Oh, now, Jovolo, forget about the bell. Get them some food and clean up the streets. But this bell business, it's not practical. It's too sentimental.
Maybe so, but the bell is important.
The bell must have a good tone.
The bell must have a meaning.
You should be allowed the bell to tell us when to eat.
Okay, all right. Thank you for telling me about the bell. I promise you that I'll do all I can to get another bell. One which will have some meaning, a good tone, and... well, its history will be that it was given to you by the Americans to take the place of the one which was taken away by the fascists to make cannon.
Tanta grazie, Major Jopolo.
Ah, nice.
So they took the bell away on the 14th, Cito.
Yes, Major.
Well, considering how things are done in the Italian army, perhaps not much has been done with the bell. Where was it sent, Cito?
To the provincial government at the town of Vicinamar.
Perhaps it got no further. Perhaps the bell's still sitting in its crate in Vicinamar.
Do you think it's possible?
It's possible, but we'll make sure. We'll find out.
Jopolo, you got bats in your belt.
Well, lay off, both. And take a memo to Lieutenant Colonel R.N. Sartorius, CAO, Vicinamari, province of Vicinamari. Subject, bell belonging to town of Adano. Would very much appreciate your initiating investigation of provincial government of Vicinamari to see if you can trace this
Now, this
bell.
is silly, I tell you, Jopolo. You're too sentimental for your own good.
Sergeant, lay off. Now send that memo.
But really,
that's an
now,
order, Sergeant Ford.
Yes, sir. Jopolo, General Marvin's outside in his car, and he wants to see you.
General Marvin?
Yeah, and he's hopping mad, so you better hurry.
What's he sore about this time?
I don't know, but you better... Hey, look at you in them pants and cocky shirt. If he sees you in those... Why...
Hey, what do you mean by keeping the general waiting?
Yes, sir. Be right out.
I hope he doesn't notice them fancy pants.
Well, it's about time, Major. Come on. The general's waiting in his car for you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you are. 1 minute and 20 seconds. You've been keeping me waiting 1 minute and 20 seconds. You think I have all day to wait for you? Who are you, anyway?
Major Jopolo, sir. Senior Civilian Affairs Officer, town of Adano, sir.
Well, Major, these Italian carts are holding up our whole invasion. I had to throw one of them off the road. I had to shoot the mule. Now, listen. You keep them out of this blasted town, do you hear? Don't you let another blasted cart come across that blasted bridge back there into this town. What the devil is this town, anyway?
Adano, sir. Town of Adano.
Adano. Well, keep those blasted broken-down carts out of this town, you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'll take care of that right away.
Right away? That's not soon enough for me.
Sir, I'll go right in and call the MPs and tell them about it.
That's not soon enough. By the eternal... Listen, I want action. No more blasted carts. Middleton.
Yes, sir?
Adano's the name of this town. Remember that, Middleton? Adano.
Yes, sir.
Driver, do you think I got all day? Let's get out of here.
Fourth, get Captain Purvis on the phone.
Sure, Sourpuss. What hit you?
General Marvin.
Give me Captain Purvis. What did he want?
If you just knew what it meant.
Here's Purvis.
Yeah. Captain Purvis, this is Major Jopolo. Here's an order from General Marvin. Keep all carts out of Adano. Stop them at the bridge on the east and at the sulfur refinery on the west. Yeah, you got it right the first time. What? He's a what? Yeah, I know.
Mr. Major, everyone knows me, Affronti Pietro. Everyone knows how Affronti has talked about the day the Americano would come.
Yes, please, come to the point.
I wish to tell you about my cart. The wheels used to sing a song when I drove my cart. Do you wish to hear this song, Mr. Major?
No,
well,
please
listen. The Americans are coming here, Senor Affronti. The Americans are very just men.
Please.
Especially
Look,
with the...
do not joke with me.
The music. The music is stopped. There is no more music.
Please, do not shout here. You seem to think that Americans are deaf men. We're not deaf, so don't shout.
But the music has stopped. There is no more music. Mr. Major, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Major.
You. What is your name?
Me? Erba Carlo.
What can I do for you?
For me?
Excuse me. Excuse him, Mr. Major. His head, his tongue is slow to speak. Erba, tell him about the water carts.
See. It's about the water carts, Mr. Major. Mr. Major,
yes.
The cart.
Tell him about your cart, Erba.
My cart is big. Outside it's dirty, but inside it's clean. It holds water. My friend drink the water. Yes.
Yes, my friend. Tell me some more about the water cart.
The thirst, the great thirst. You will not let my cart across the bridge. There is no water in Adano without my cart and the other water cart. There is a thirst in Adano. Since yesterday morning at 11 o'clock, there is a great thirst. It is all because of the bridge and the cart and
by the proclamation of the matter of being clean.
Yes, the proclamation. In one proclamation, Mr. Major, I forgot the number of the proclamation. There are so many. Does the number matter, Mr. Major?
No, the number does not matter.
Grazie. The proclamation says it's necessary to be clean. It says that people must be cleaned with water, and even the street must be clean. To be clean takes much water. My cart is on the other side of the bridge, Mr. Major.
The cleanliness is very important, Elba. We must make Adano the cleanest town in the whole province of Vicina Mar.
See, we will do this thing, even if the dirt has piled up since a long time ago. But my cart is on the other side of the bridge. You ever say it may not pass?
You better think twice, Major. You want General Marvin to break you dope?
I made up my mind.
Don't do it. Listen, Giapolo, listen to your head.
Shut
not
up.
Your heart. Okay, it's on your head, brother.
Elba, Vasily, Fronti, I'll have the order changed. You may bring your carts into the town.
Oh, brother, if the general finds out about that.
There never has been a thing like this in
When the people come and take water from my cart to drink for their thirst, I shall say to them, thank you, Mr. Major, my friend.
Yeah, look, get out of here. You're wasting my time and the time of the people who are waiting outside the door. Fourth, get me Captain Purvis over at the MP building.
Boy, are you sticking your neck out. Give me Captain Purvis.
I know what I'm doing.
Famous last words. Hello, Purvis. Here you are, Giapolo.
Purvis, Giapolo, listen. By one sentence, General Marvin destroyed the work of 9 days in this town. I know it may mean a court-martial, but I've decided to countermand his order. I know I'm taking a chance, but I've got to do it. This town's dying. No food can get in if the carts don't come in. The town depends on the carts for water. There isn't any running water here, you know. People will die. I'm not here to kill people. What? What? No, wait a minute. What? You'll do what? Listen, Purvis, I order you on my authority to start letting the carts back into the town beginning now. I take absolute and complete responsibility for countermanding General Marvin's order. What's that? Listen, friend, if we never took chances around here, this place would go right on being a fascism. All right, you know what you can do. It's on my responsibility.
Hey, Trapani, Schultz.
Yes, sir.
What's wrong now, Captain?
Giapolo wants to let the carts back into town. If General Marvin should drive back through here, we'd all get hung for it. Just to cover ourselves, we'll make out a report saying just what happened. The General Marvin ordered us to keep the carts out, but Major Giapolo countermanded the order. You make it out, Trapani, and send it to G1 of the division. I'm going out to take the guards off the road by the bridge. How do you like that guy, Giapolo? I'm not going to burn for him.
Well, how do you like that, Schultz?
General Marvin's liable never to come back here. And if he did, he'd probably never notice the carts.
Yeah, but once you get the thing on paper, it's just a sure way to ruin the major. And he's so right about those carts anyway.
So go hire a hall. I got headaches of my own.
Well, it's just...
It's just. What's it to you, anyway? It's no skin off of your hide.
I just hate to see a guy get in trouble when he's trying to do right.
All right, well, then why don't you write the memo and then put the wrong address on it and sort of let it get lost accidentally on papers?
Accidentally on papers? You mean it?
Sure, you're Italian, ain't you? And this Giapolo is trying to help these Italians, ain't he?
Yeah.
Well, you can make a mistake, can't you? Maybe the memo won't get to the general for a long time. Maybe it'll never get to him.
Yeah. You know, Schultz, sometimes I think you're a bright boy. A very bright boy.
is rebuilding our town so we can all eat and drink and sing and be happy. But you laughed when I say this before because of the carts. Now I laugh at you. The majority Diapolo says that the carts come into the town again. You hear? It is like I tell you. The Americans are here to help you. And the majority is trying to get us a bell, too. That's all.
Hello, Diapolo, Amgon.
Diapolo, this is Sartorius up at Vinchinamari.
Oh, hello, Colonel.
About that bell,
Yeah?
they shipped it off to the Fuehrer artillery foundry.
Oh. Well, I guess it's just a chunk of cannon now. These people down here will be broken-hearted. Well, thanks anyway, Sartorius.
Glad to do you a favor, Diapolo, anytime. Say, why don't you try General Wilson in Algiers?
Who?
Wilson, Quartermaster Depot, Algiers. He's pretty good at getting things. Got some odds and ends for me once or twice.
Wait a minute. Boy.
Yes, sir?
Write down this address. Okay, Sartorius, let's have it.
General W.B. Wilson,
General W.B. Wilson.
Quartermaster Depot,
Quartermaster Depot.
Algiers.
Algiers. You got that, boy?
Yeah.
Thanks, Sartorius.
Anytime.
Yeah, well, bye. Borth, I want you to get a letter off to
I know. Got a letter here from General Wilson, Diapolo.
Oh, good. What's the score?
No hits, no runs, your error.
Oh.
He says he doesn't have a 700-year-old bell, and don't you realize there's a war going on? Now, Diapolo, why don't you forget it?
I can't. I keep thinking of it all the time. You know, boy, I think I want to get this town the right bell more than I've ever wanted anything in my life.
Boy, when you go out on a limb. Listen, if headquarters ever finds out about the time you've been putting in on this bell business...
Forget about headquarters.
I wish I could. But if General Marvin ever finds out about the carts...
Look.
And then this business...
Let's try the Navy.
What a mind, just one track. Didn't you even hear what I was saying?
Sure. Forget it. Listen, that lieutenant, what's his name? Livingston, down in the port captain's office. He's a pretty good guy.
You're going to fall in love with the Navy now. What a guy.
Listen, Livingston got his captain's permission for the fishermen to go out and fish again, didn't he? You know, he might be just a man.
If the Army can't find your bell, how's the Navy going to do it?
Well, most ships have got bells, and they have to be loud and clear so that the men can hear them all over the ship to tell them the hours of the watches.
Now he's an expert on the Navy.
Get Livingston on the phone.
Okay.
Memos, always something wrong. Can't they write about things being right? What was that last one about, Middleton?
Some telephone wire that has been lost on an LST.
Oh, the blazes with them. The answer is no.
Yes, sir.
Now go on finishing reading those blasted memos and let's get this thing over with. Think I got all day?
Yes, sir. No, sir. To General Marvin for information, etc., routing address and so forth. Subject, mule carts, town of Adano.
Blasted, broken down mule carts.
On July 19th, orders were received from General Marvin to keep all mule carts out of the town of Adano. Guards were posted at the bridge over Rosso River and at Cacopado Sulfur Refinery. Order carried out.
Oh, that's right. And stop the blasted carts. Pesky Italians trying to hold up the whole blasted invasion. Well, they'd better carry out that order.
Yes, sir. On July 20th, guards were removed on order of Major... now, sir...
Finish it, you blasted... Finish it.
Yes, sir. The guards were removed on order of Major Victor Diapolo, Civil Affairs Officer, town of Adano, because the carts were essential to the town, and town...
Diapolo! Listen, do you remember the name of Diapolo, Colonel Middleton?
Yes, sir, the cart.
Yeah, I just remembered something. That Diapolo was out of uniform that day, you remember? Had on pinks and a khaki shirt. You remember that, Middleton?
No, sir, I'd forgotten
But
that.
I haven't. Oh, I've had enough of that radical Diapolo.
Yes.
Now make out an order recalling that blasted Italian-American pipsqueak from that blasted town that... What's the name of it?
Adano, sir.
Well, order him to report back to Algiers for reassignment. Make out a separate report to Algiers explaining why. I'll fix that blasted little baby and get it off today, too, understand? None of your blasted delays now. Do you hear me, Middleton?
Yes, sir.
All right.
This is Mercurio Salvatore, town crier. Listen, people of Adano. I am to tell you this. A committee has been formed which has in turn made up plans for a party. A party to honor the good Mr. Maggiore Victor Giappolo for the wonderful things he has done in rebuilding our town. Yes, this town, Adano, is much better off since the Americans have come. And there will be a bell, too. So come to the party tonight and celebrate the coming of the Americans and honor the Mr. Maggiore Giappolo and come to the party. That's all.
Boy, they told me you were in here and that you're acting like a crazy man. What's the matter with you?
Giappolo, you're fired. You've been relieved. You're nobody around here. Oh, you sentimental ape, you big...
Oh, come on, boy. You need to soak your head in some cold
I'll
water.
go soak your own fat head.
Now, boy.
Take your hands off me. Here, read that.
You're authorized to proceed by first available transportation to AFHQ Algiers for reassignment of station. The reason for this order is that reference to willfully and without consultation countermand orders issued by General Marvin, 49th Division. Re-entry of mule carts into town of Adano. Signed, General Marvin. Where'd you get this?
Your desk. I wanted to keep you from seeing it until after the party. Don't look like that, Giappolo.
Let's go back to the party. And don't say a word, boy. It wouldn't be fair to spoil their fun.
Ain't you ever gonna grow up and think of yourself first, you big lug?
Come on, boy. Smile. That was a great party, boy. I'll never forget it.
Yes, sir. You ready, sir?
Yeah. Papers are all arranged. You called for a jeep?
Yes, sir.
It's better to go this way in the morning, boy. I don't want to say goodbye to anyone. I don't know whether I could.
I'm sorry I got lit last night, Major. My intentions were good. I mean, I wanted you to have a good time at the party.
I don't know. Borth, try to help whoever takes my place do a good job in Adano.
Adano needs you, Major.
It's too late to talk about that. I wonder how Marvin ever found out about the carts.
Oh, one of his staff must have driven through or something.
Yeah, I guess so. Listen, boy, keep after Livingston.
About the bell, you mean?
Yeah. It should be a loud bell with a tone to it, with a history to it. It should stand for the things I believe in.
The boys are building a new scaffolding for it, Major. Be ready for it when it comes.
Tell the guy that takes my place that I wanted them to be happy here. I wanted all of them to have as much as they could of what they wanted, without hurting anyone else. That's what I wanted in Adano.
I'll tell him, Major.
Well, let's go.
The jeep's here.
So long, boy.
So long, Giappolo.
Let's go, driver.
Yes, sir.
What's the matter, sir? Don't you feel well?
I was thinking of all the things I ever wanted. Nothing.
Yes, sir.
Driver, stop a minute, will you, please?
Yes, sir.
Listen. Do you hear something?
Just a bell. Must be 11 o'clock.
Yes. Just a bell.
just the bell. Mr. Major Victor Joppele, USA, was a good man. That is the whole reason why I have told you everything that is happening. America is on its way to Europe. There will be a few Americans who do not understand us. But there will be others, good ones. Good ones like the Major Joppele, who brought understanding and help and freedom and the bell. A bell for Adano.
As the 42nd program of the Words at War series, we have presented A Bell for Adano by John Hersey, the book which has just been awarded by the Council on Books in Wartime the rare designation of imperative, and which is to be made into a motion picture by 20th Century Fox. The radio adaptation was made by Lawrence Mencken. Barry Kroger played Major Joppele, and Daniel Acco played Mercurio, the town crier. Others in the cast included Myron McCormick, Alan Drake, James Van Dyke, Rolf Sedan, Jackson Beck, John Alessino, Nino Ruggieri, and Tommy Nello. The music was arranged and played by William Meader, and the entire production was under the direction of Anton M. Leader. We have an important announcement to make for next week. On the night of February 22nd, the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations broadcast an outstanding program on this Words at War series, a program called Assignment USA. Of this program, Variety, that provocative and unusual weekly of the show world, said, "The stuff with which this half hour scorched the air made your ears burn. It was hard to believe even after you heard it. That's the kind of program it was. The kind the country needs, the kind radio needs." In its columns, Variety twice pointed out to NBC that radio as an industry needs these sock shows, and somewhat acidly urged a repetition of Assignment USA. In response to these urgings, the National Broadcasting Company will repeat this program next Tuesday evening. The nation should hear this very excellent show. We hope you won't miss Assignment USA. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Listen. The trickle of water. Snow melts in the Valdai hills, and the river begins its odyssey. Down through the foothills, far down through Smolensk and legendary Kiev, down through the freshening meadowland of the Ukraine, down to the distant sea. 1,400 miles of broadening, swelling power. River Dnieper, wild river of Russia. Giant river, your voice is of many voices, blending into one. But above all swells the deep chorus of the people. Listen, you men and women everywhere, and I will tell you a story of love and toil and sacrifice and faith beyond all understanding. The story of a wild river and the Soviet people.
The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the Council on Books in Wartime, presents another program in the series Words at War. Tonight's script, written by Charles Newton, is a radio impression of the novel Wild River by Anna Louise Strong.
Now let me review your argument, Nikolai Petrovich. It is your view that while the river is potentially a source of great wealth, it is today making beggars of us all?
Exactly, Your Excellency. Once each year, sometimes more often, the Dnieper overflows its bank. Thousands and thousands of peasants and landowners lose their crops and often their homes.
It is a great waste to the nation.
And you propose that this dam of yours to set up a system of flood control?
The dam would accomplish that and many other things. Now, for instance, boats from the Black Sea can navigate upstream only so far as Zaporozhye. Then 60 miles of rapids cut the river in two. But with a dam and locks there, the boats and barges can travel almost 1,000 miles further north.
Now, that might be very profitable.
And most important of all, Excellency, would be the dam's hydroelectric station. With electric power, we could remake the whole country.
Nikolai Petrovich, you engineers sound like professional visionaries. You sound like communists. Where do you describe all this plan?
Here, Excellency.
First plans for a hydroelectric station on the Dnieper were drawn up at least 7 years ago in 1905.
That is the Grand Duke Mikhail speaking. Brother of the Tsar and greatest landholder of the Ukraine. Even if he were alive, the Grand Duke would not recognize me. But I, Stepan Bogdanov, remember him well. My grandfather was his serf. My family and myself were once his ragged, starving peasants.
Flood control. Hold on. Look. You see here, the lake formed by rising water behind the dam would stretch a mile wide for 80 miles upstream.
Yes, Your Excellency.
But that would flood my land. I own that land.
That's why we came with this proposal, to buy it from you.
But it's the richest land I have. Why would I sell?
But think what our dam would do for millions of starving peasants. Think of what it would do for the whole Ukraine.
But that is hardly my affair, Nikolai Petrovich.
Oh, we're not asking you to give the land. Name your price.
All right. 100 million.
Excellency.
Yes. As early as 1912, the Grand Duke Mikhail destroyed the dream of our greatest Russian engineers and the hope of millions of our people very quietly and effectively, with a patient smile. He did not refuse to cooperate. He merely named a prohibitive price for his land. Yes, the dam would have to wait. And time went on, measured by the seasons and the destructive fury of the wild river, and the growing poverty of the people. But their dream was not ended. It lived on in the minds and hearts of many Russian men and women who at last, to realize this dream and 1,000 others of the people's destiny, rose up and cast off their chains. Revolution. But the fight was long and bitter, till at last even the strong, the leaders, were filled with foreboding and doubt.
And the next few hours will tell us it.
Yes, Vladimir. Our fight against the White Russians and the foreign powers hangs on the balance.
And the whole revolution is at stake.
And all we can do is wait.
Everything is ready. Yet of all the years we fought for a free Russia, this day is the darkest.
But even in that critical moment of history, while others doubted, one doubted not.
Have faith, comrades. I have faith. On this day, the darkest of the revolution, I've seen through the eyes of our engineers a bright day which lies ahead. This morning, we completed final plans for the great new dam on the Dnieper River. It's been the dream of our people for many years. Lift your eyes to that horizon. The vision is dazzling. Have faith, comrades. We cannot lose.
Thus spoke Nikolai Lenin. But even when the victory of the revolution was won, and the few could no longer stand in the way of the many, even then, the dam had to wait. First, food must be found, and mines developed. New factories must be raised above the rubble of war. Engineers must be trained, and workers. Only then would there be strength enough and skill enough to build the giant that would tame the wild river. A long night of years lay ahead. A night of want and privation and suffering and death.
The hungry year of 1921. There were no horses in the land, and we hitched ourselves to the wooden plowshares and stumbled across the fields till at last we fell.
1922 and 3 and 4. flood and famine. Holding out the promise of plenty, the river destroyed what little we had.
1925 and 6. This Ukraine could be the richest land in the world. We clutched our eggs about us and laughed, and the taste in our mouths grew dry and bitter. Yet still the dream persisted and strengthened and grew.
Have faith, comrades. We cannot lose.
It was in the spring of 1927 that the first explosions thundered through the canyon of the river. I had just come from the Red Dawn farm to the city of Zaporozhye. I sat in the office of my friend Ivan Karpovich and jumped suddenly from my chair as I heard the distant roar. Good. You bolted like a shy colt, Stepan. Just the effect I'd hoped for.
But what is it?
You peasants never hear anything. You might as well live in another world.
What is it, Ivan?
They are dynamiting in the river canyon, that's what it is.
You mean the dam? Then all the rumors we've heard are true.
We've started it.
We?
Yes. I've been studying at engineering school for the last 6 months, Stepan. They're going to make me a drill foreman.
Ivan, is there a chance? Could I get a job?
Of course you can. Need everybody we can get. You can work under me if you like. Hey, what's this? A man of your age crying?
Don't be a fool, Ivan Karpovich. Me crying? And the long night of waiting vanished into light. And I, Stepan Bogdanov, was in the start of things. The explosions we set off roared in triumph. Our people had set to work to remake its heritage. Who knows, perhaps we were beginning to remake the world. 30,000 workers were needed. And in the year that followed, they flocked to us from every corner of the Soviet Union. Few were trained. Few could even write or read. But they joined up with a smile and they worked with a will. By 1928, as boss of a drill section, I was signing them up by the score. Some were from the Ukraine.
Like me, Anya Kozareva.
Yes, and many of them were women.
My mother thought it was wicked for a girl to become a worker like this. But that's only because she still thinks the old way from the habit of the years. Why shouldn't we women help build our new world? Aren't we going to be part of it, too? I'm young, I'm strong, I'm free, Stepan Bogdanov. Sign me as a driller.
They came from every corner of the land, men and women, young and old.
To tell the truth, son, I'm here on forced labor. I'm a convict. Huh? Oh, just stealing. Got sort of in the habit. Started 30 years ago stealing from the Tsar and the landowners. I did that because I hated them. I only stole this last time because I thought I needed some new clothes. Didn't stop to think we're all in the same boat these days. And I might have been taking something somebody else needed just as bad as I. Maybe here's my chance to make up for what I've done.
Girls and boys, peasants and convicts, old and young, from every corner of the land they came.
Yes, sir. My name is Vasily, and I'm from the Georgian Republic. I was a shepherd, but there's too much going on today for the young to stay at home tending sheep. You'll take me. Say, do you know anybody who can write? I promised to let my brothers know if there were plenty of jobs here. They want to come up, too.
And besides all the regular workers, we found other help, too.
There are 6 of us, and we're all students from the Conservatory of Music in Moscow. You see, we've just started a vacation trip to some of the biggest projects of the 5-year plan. But now that we've been here a couple of days, we think maybe we'll call off the rest of the trip. If you need help, we'd like to spend the rest of our vacation working on the dam.
Yes, they joined up with a smile to work on the Dnieper Dam. And for so little, some food and shelter, some sunlight, a word of encouragement at the right moment, and a chance in the evenings when the long day's work was done to sing and dance.
tired though we were, that's when our spirits lifted and our hearts were gay again. And the music and the voices blended to a rhythm set by flying feet. And perhaps Vasily would do his dance while Anya, whom Vasily had married, clapped her hands to the measures, her smile happy and proud.
Catalina, Catalina, Catalina,
It's been 2 years now, and the barracks we live in aren't even finished.
Yes, 20 men in a room big enough for 5.
Crawling with rats and roaches and lice. Things getting worse all the time.
I'm quitting.
Me too. I'm going back home. We're going home.
Some were paid enemy agents. Some were relics of the old system, not yet cleansed or winnowed out. And some were merely men of little faith, ready to sacrifice their heritage and the heritage of all mankind for a slab of butter and a comfortable place by the master's fire. Oh, don't mistake me. I mean, the things they grumbled about were true. The housing conditions for many of our 30,000 workers were frightful. So was the food, for that matter, even when there was enough to go round. And as the months and then the years rolled by, the turnover of workers grew higher and higher. But when one man whined...
I'm quitting. Going back home I am.
Another would step forward to take his place.
Sign me up, comrade. This is my fight, too.
What worried us most, though, was not the labor turnover, but the cost of the dam, the cost in time, and the cost in life. Our country was so new, and in many ways we were so far behind. It was during the second year of construction that I took the visiting American engineer, Mr. Wood, on a tour of the dam site. He was astounded at what we had done and at the way we were doing it.
Why, Mr. Bogdanov, you need tools here.
Tools? But we have lots of tools.
Your workmen don't even have picks to work with. They've got to beat at the earth with these heavy iron bars. Your shovels are no good. They've got short handles and give little perches and a small flat blade that raises, which is only a little dirt. You should have what we use in America. Long handle, a large curved blade. Good heavens, I haven't seen a single wheelbarrow.
Wheelbarrow?
You use that...
Nosilka?
Yes, to carry the dirt away. It takes 2 husky men to handle a fifth as much as one man could take in a decent wheelbarrow.
I know we're far behind you in technique, but still we've managed to accomplish a lot.
But what a cost in time and labor.
Yes, that's true. Even I sometimes wonder if this fantastic pace we've set for ourselves is worth that cost.
Have courage, comrade. We cannot lose.
But the cost was great. And we watched the time tick by with growing anxiety. Could we ever complete the dam within the scheduled time of the 5-year plan? Could we ever do it with a constant labor turnover and with inadequate tools? And as time ticked by, one obstacle after another fell hugely across our path. But the most dangerous foe of all, the foe that fought us with secret cunning and with wild fury, was the river. In summer, it reflected the sun's rays, burning and blistering the skin of our bodies. In winter, it froze us. Its treacherous waters swept us from cofferdam and pier to smash and tear us against the rocks. It laughed and mocked us in the sunlight while we shivered or sweat with the fevers it gave us as we worked waist-deep by the rising pillars of concrete. Its rippling surface was like a shout of joy, but beneath the surface, so many of our comrades slept in darkness and eternal silence. And in the springtime, the river cursed us with flood.
The locks! The locks! We've got to save the cover from the locks!
It happened in the spring of 31. For 10 days, we fought to save the locks. And on the 10th night, the flood burst through.
The men of the cofferdam! They'll be thrust into the river!
That was Vasily shouting. The boy who came from the Georgian Republic and first worked on my drill gang. The boy who had brought his brothers here, too, and married Anya, the girl from Kitchkas. In the wild, howling night, Vasily organized a rescue gang and struck boldly into the river when he knew the chances were even and that it meant death.
We'll put you on the bed, Vasily.
Thank you, comrade.
Is that comfortable, comrade?
Why, darling? Why did you do it?
Don't cry, Anya. Bring me the boy. I want to see my son.
Yes, dearest.
Help me, comrades.
Certainly,
Help me.
Easy. There.
Easy. Sit up.
Better.
Thank you. Now, cover my wet clothes with the blanket.
Yes, surely.
My son is a year old. He might think me foolish to go swimming on so cold a night.
Here we are, darling. Will you hold him?
No. Just let me look. So silent, young man. I knew he'd disapprove of my coming in wet. But no, Anya. I want to leave you smiling.
You mustn't say that.
Yes, dear. And I am hurrying fast. Look at me, boy. You are going to take my place now. The dam has used up a lot of us old fellows. But what does that matter when there are boys like you to follow? Think of it, son. One day, you will see it finished.
Even the river couldn't beat us. And with a final spurt, we conquered it. And one sunny day in spring in the year 1932, in every town and village of the Soviet Union, the people heard our proud report that
today, the 28th of March, at 5:20 in the afternoon, the last cubic meter of concrete will be poured and set on Dnieper Dam.
And the wild river swung to the oak, a scourge no longer, but the hope, the promise of a nation. All that we had hoped, all that we had dreamed began to come true. And by the early summer of 1941, 300 miles of roaring towns and giant farms testified that the heart of the Ukraine, its electric pulse in Dnieper Dam, had become one of the richest regions in the world.
True. It's the breadbasket of Europe. Wheat. We could use that.
The river transportation is excellent. We could float our freight in barges down to the Black Sea, into the Danube, all the way across Europe by water.
Think of the mines and industry there. The iron of Krivoy Rog.
The manganese of Nikopol.
The steel and coal of the Donetsk Basin.
And all of it is furnished with power from a single force. Think of that. Seize the dam, and you seize the key to the whole Ukraine.
And seize the Ukraine, and we acquire the means for world domination. My Herrenfolk, we will do it.
For years they planned it. And on June the 22nd, 1941, they struck. Flushed with victories from a conquered Europe, the world-devastating Nazis smashed ahead in bitter battles. The Red Army hit hard, but it could not stop them. There were 3 giant prongs, and the southernmost was aimed at Dnieper Dam. In a room of the Kremlin, late in the month of July.
Who knows, Comrade Commissar? I would like to tell you that no more cities will be lost. But who knows where or when we can make our stand.
I'm thinking especially now of the case of Dnieper Dam.
Yes, in the south. That is the enemy's chief objective.
There are 9 huge generators there. It'll take time to dismantle and move them. If the army plans to retreat east of the river, we should start work on the generators now.
Comrade, the Red Army never plans to retreat. We'll cross the river only if we're threatened with encirclement.
You're avoiding my question, General. What I want to know is, should we start dismantling the generators now?
I'm afraid I must say yes.
Oh, what a terrible loss it will be.
But, Comrade Commissar, not such a loss as when we blow up the dam.
But, Comrade Stalin, we can't destroy the dam.
Why should we leave it? The Nazis will bring their own generators. They already built them for just this purpose.
But think what Dnieper Dam means to us.
Think what it would mean to the Nazis.
Why, it's our greatest monument. To the people, it's a symbol of everything they've worked for, every sacrifice they've made.
True. But they did not work and sacrifice to build it for the Nazis.
For 5 years, we worked to build the dam. We thought it would last 1,000.
Comrade,
it was the first giant of the 5 river plan. And now, because the army can't do its job, you're asking us to destroy the dam.
Comrades, in the first place, let us not speak of destroying the dam. What the people built there can never be destroyed. What they did there will live forever. Alexei Alexeevich, find us a man who helped build the dam and who has worked on its operation since then. The honor of blowing up Dnieper Dam should go to the man who loves it most.
That was Comrade Stalin. And I, Stepan Bogdanov, was the man they chose. For days we worked as the Red Army streamed eastward in silent retreat. Beneath the beautiful concrete piers, we planted the dynamite with loving care. And we connected the charges with wires and strung them skillfully and secretly to a central detonator upstream. And the ache in our hearts grew and grew as we plotted tenderly the utter demolition of the thing we loved best. Day after day we worked till the last refugee had left and the last troops crossed to the further shore. It was the night of August the 26th, 1941, and the eastern sky was bright with flame.
I don't think we can wait any longer. Too much of a chance.
Maybe more troops will need to cross by the bridge.
No, Comrade Bogdanov. Only the partisans are left. And they will stay on the western shore.
The refugees, more peasants will be using the bridge.
They've all crossed over, too.
Are you sure the wiring's all right?
We can't put it off any longer, comrade. I know how you feel. Would you like me to do it?
No, I...
Have courage, comrade. We cannot lose.
I'll do it myself. Giant river, we loved you too much to deliver you in bondage to a hateful enemy. Roll free and wild again, and we pray that you will flood our captive land as once you did the free. But remember, we'll be back again. We'll build again, and you will serve us again and forever in peace. Oh, wild river, your voice is of many voices blending into one. But above all swells the deep chorus of the people. We'll return to you, return in triumph. With such faith as ours, we cannot lose.
You have just heard the 44th program in the series Worded at War. Tonight, a radio impression of Anna Louise Strong's distinguished novel, Wild River. The script was written by Charles Newton. Stotts Cotsworth was heard as Stepan Bogdanov. A Russian chorus under the direction of Leo Rusato provided the music, and the entire production was under the direction of Anton M. Leader. Next week, Words at War will present an adaptation of the strange story entitled Silence of the Sea. Words at War is brought to you in cooperation with the Council of Books in Wartime by the National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations. American radio listeners are the best informed people on earth. They're interested in the history, future, and peoples of these countries which are now the battlefronts of a war for freedom. The National Broadcasting Company and the independent radio stations associated with the network use their entire facilities to keep America informed. New developments in world events, historical background, expert examination of current and future problems are available to the radio audience day and night. NBC is on top of the news. Radio listeners everywhere know that American radio brings them the truest information and the widest choice of programs. This is the American system, developed through free enterprise. This is the National Broadcasting Company.